Okay guys, Macro Theatre Circle, and I got up this morning to see what the comments section on my last video had devolved into. There was a huge group of people in there who felt the same way as me, and you can put that down to the echo chamber. You know, people who are regularly subscribed to this channel, hang around it all the time, and consequently share very similar opinions to myself, and therefore that's not surprising. There were also a huge amount of people who I don't recognise their names and started many of their sentences with things like, I don't watch this channel, or I don't usually agree with Macca, or things like that, and then followed up by saying, but he's absolutely right. Then I had a group of people who were saying, you're only ever salty, you're nothing but salty. And a couple of them I replied to last night and said, well, the evidence doesn't bear this out. And yet they were, very insistent on it. And so obviously you can see in the background here, videos over the last, we'll say 1 month. And most of them are a neutral take. Some, like that new Chaos Elder Sculpt Opinions, was basically entirely positive from memory of that video. Talking about models I love, obviously. Well, models I love. Not talking about Horus Heresy leaks. I think that's pretty damn neutral. So, the point I'm getting at here is, because you don't need me to sit here and defend the content I put out. Who cares? But the point I'm getting at is that people are seeing what they want to see. And they're defending what they want to defend. Now, you can say that I am only ever making salty videos lately. I mean, I have the entire month of January, which was basically everything from Veil of Darkness right through to the LVO Heresy. Okay? The LVO Heresy was the only video that could possibly be considered negative in the entire month there. And yet, rather than taking a look at what I've said in these videos, people are just defaulting to, you're just salty, you're just whining for the sake of whining. Plastic beakies is a great thing, how can you hate it? I never said I hated plastic beakies. You just decided that because you're fucking idiots who can't listen to a video. I only ever said nice things about that beaky. I just questioned the validity of having everyone in beaky armor at the end of the Horus Heresy. And a lot of people in the comments said the exact same thing. Because years and years of established law, and I don't care what an Armor Through the Ages article in White Dwarf that was printed in the last fucking year says, that's retcon. We have decades of books and novels and Horus Heresy black books that say, Mark 6 really is only starting to enter production at the end of the heresy. It's been massively disrupted due to the heresy, and it's really the armor of the scouring. But there is an armor type, guys, that is synonymous with the Horus Heresy, and it's Mark 5. And Mark 5 armor is synonymous with the Horus Heresy, and well, you can kind of get it in the name of the armor. It's called Heresy Patina Armor. So, to me, that would have been a better choice, right? But ignore all that. Macca, you're always negative, you're just wrong, da da da. That video I put out on Sun Killers and Terrible Rules Writing 101, okay? That wasn't taking shots at the staff, despite the wording of the title. It was taking shots at the way a certain rule was written. It has a couple of rules like this. And if you think that that video was wrong, why did they change the rules for that a couple days later? I didn't even get the time to praise them for that move, because this whole Adepticon business happened, okay? In my time. I believe it was in the morning, our time, or late at night, our time, the night before yesterday, when the rules were changed for Sun Killers. So by the time it got to me, I couldn't even put a video out to say to them, well done on that. Because at the end of the day, I don't just have seething hatred for Games Workshop. You can go through the video back catalogue. Like I said, go back through. There's not just seething hatred of Games Workshop, and I've made a huge point of that over time. But people are not taking the time out to sit down, look at these things, and really absorb them. You're coming in and you're starting out with this attitude of the video is going to be negative, macro is always negative, everything is salt. If I was always negative, I'd have nothing to do with this hobby. I'd have nothing to pull out of it. Just the most... It's not adult behavior, guys. That's what I'm getting at. You need to take the substance of that particular video into account. Actually take it in, absorb it, listen to it, spit it back out. And that was not happening with the Adepticon Reveals video, because everyone was dwelling on me hating new beakies. Go back and rewatch it. I do not hate new beakies. I question the validity of the armor mark, and I spent majority of my time talking about how bad that Praetor was and people justifying things. And I will die on that hill, I don't care. Justifying terrible ideas and just accepting it and going, well, I like the beakies. I had one person say, you're having your chocolate cake, eating it too, and then complaining you got chocolate cake. No. When it comes to something like the beakies, I don't see it that way. I see it as, I ordered a steak, I got chicken, and a lot of people like chicken, and therefore I should be happy with the chicken. I don't care for it. I like beakies. I like that there's a Horus Heresy 2.0. I like them in plastic. There's plenty of things I could complain about. I could complain about that giant 3D printing line running down his thigh. I could complain about the blue tack holding the head of this miniature on that they've just re-edited out overnight. Okay? I could talk about these things. Sure. Why not? But it doesn't matter. They weren't important to the video. Because the video is mostly critiquing the abomination that is this miniature and its styling. And how I felt that the beakies, despite being great looking Marines, was a little bit inappropriate to the Horus Heresy. Because if you really break it down, again, being honest here, I know that annoys a lot of people, but what if, bear with me here, the older kits start to go out of production and don't get replaced, namely the Mark III and Mark IV plastic kits? Are you going to be playing your games that are set throughout the Horus Heresy? 10 years the Horus Heresy goes for. Siege of Terror is the last 5 minutes of it, for all it matters. How are you going to be playing your games that are set in the earlier parts of the Horus Heresy? You know, you're doing an Isfahan, End of the Great Crusade, something like that. Then it's not appropriate to have this miniature there. So we're relying on them to keep the older miniatures in production. And that is a foolish endeavour at the best of times, because unfortunately, like it or not, Games Workshop has a big history of just plucking Marines from production, or any models from production in their range, no matter how it actually affects the hobby. See the Last Chance to Buy debacle, where over several months they plucked more than half of what gave the Horus Heresy range its flavour. They just gutted it completely. You know, Legion torsos, they got rid of all these different upgrade units and weapon sets, and you know, that was a very real problem. And that's a legitimate concern for me. So yeah, I like Beaky Marines, I liked this Beaky Marine, but people didn't listen to the video, they didn't absorb what was being said, and that was very, very disappointing to get up and see. I don't know how many more comments I can put up with people saying, oh, you're only ever salty. Guys, listen to the words coming out of my mouth. They are not just, fuck Games Workshop, screw this, screw that, it's all shit. If it was, there'd be no subscribers. But read through the comments of your fellow gamers. Read through the comments on the video. It is full of people saying, why not Mark II? Why not Mark V? There are people who obviously defend it and go, well, I think beakies are great, therefore I want them. One guy said that the Horus Heresy is not a narrative game. It's an open play game. Where the hell did that come from? The Horus Heresy is definitely a narrative game. Open play is a 40k term. None of that makes sense to me. So, the whole video yesterday just blew my mind. It told me how bad this model was. The styling was all over the place for the majority of it. And just forcing Mark 6 and everything. I mean, you can love the trailer. Trailer's another one, sore spot for many people. The trailer was really good. Look, something like that is subjective. Okay? You will like it by default or you won't like it by default, right? It's up to you. And I'm lukewarm on the trailer. I don't love it, don't hate it. Okay? But of course, because I didn't love it, I therefore must hate it. It's like the first rule of Outer Circle videos. But I want to point out to you, every single Marine in that video, every single Marine in the image in this video here around Horus is in Mark 6 power armor. The thing is though, the Horus Heresy is not a game of Mark 6 power armor. They're just promoting it, showcasing it, because they want it to be the face of the Heresy. It's distinct and recognizable from the regular sort of Primaris armor of 40k. If you put Mark 4 armor or Mark 5, it's too similar to it. It can't go on a poster. Looks like the same game side by side. Yeah, I get it, fine. But, what annoyed me wasn't that. That I can live with. They just reuse the same assets throughout the entire video because it's really easy to animate if you only have to make one wire mesh model. No, what annoyed me was that there was no Mechanica, there was no Soul Auxilia, there was no Militia, there was no Custodes, Sisters, Silence, Demons of the Rust. There's all these factions in the Horus Heresy, guys. And it's your rogues gallery. And they're not using them. And if they can't bring themselves to use them now, what faith can I have that they will use them correctly in future? Hey, they might. They might, and it'd be awesome if they do. And this is the thing that people forget. Happy to be proven wrong. If they turn around at a later date and they bring out all these plastic mechanic and plastic Castellax, plastic Thalax, etc., etc., they bring out plastic Mark III breaches and Mark II power armor in plastic, I can eat my words quite content. I'll happily do it. You can come back, reference the video then, and I'll be sitting back going, yeah, no, Games Workshop did the right thing here. They really looked after us Heresy players. Yeah. But we're not there. What we need as a Heresy community is all the stuff to play Horus Heresy, not Siege of Terror. So the people defending it, again, take a step back, look at it from my perspective for a moment, and listen to the words I'm saying. What is healthiest for the hobby is not a box of Beaky Marines at this stage. Now, I am for a box of Beaky Marines, but in the context of they should have done a re-release of Rogue Trader. You fill it full of plastic Marines, and you're able to market it as a Rogue Trader re-release with modern plastics, and go back and play the original game from 1987. And Heresy players can also buy that box and utilize the miniatures in it for the Heresy armies. That's what you call a win-win. And it's something I've suggested doing on this channel for about 4 or 5 years now. That's how committed to that idea I've been. But at some point they've lost sight of that. And to dwell on the armor for one more moment. Heresy armor, Mark 5. People were saying things like, oh, well, Mark 6 armor, it came out as a result of Mark 5. No, it really didn't. It was actually out prior to Mark 5 existing. Mark 5 retroactively got the designation 5 because all the legions started employing it throughout the Horus Heresy. And what it was the legions were taking all the bits of leftover armor after, battles, and saying, look, we don't have resupplies. We've got to do something here. And taking all that armor and using those big rivets, that's what those molecular bonding studs, the big dots on the pauldron are. They put them all over the armor to hold the different pieces together, and, little extra bits of plate they'd welded up and whatever to provide additional armor. They took all those bits of armor and cobbled them together so that they had something to keep fighting with, and it was ugly, but it did the job. And that's why it was called Heresy Armor. That's why I got the Mark V designation. It wasn't really a standardized pattern of power armor. Every one of them was different. Mark V could have a set of Mark III legs, a Mark II torso, and a Mark IV head. And it shows the desperation of the Horus Heresy that everyone's not kicking around in brand new Legion Mark VI. And in the universe itself, it makes no sense. No matter how much writers that have taken over the work of people more talented than them in the past, no matter what they say, it doesn't play out. Because the writers today are not taking into account things like, take the Dark Angels. They're out fighting in the void past Thrumus. They then come back into their heresy several years into it, finding out the heresy is even happening. Then they have to fight the Night Lords, who themselves have been stationed out there and taken over whole sectors in Thramus area, waiting for the Dark Angels to come back. And then those two fight for several years. And there's no Forge Worlds full of Mark VI there. The armor mark has not been disseminated out for mass production yet. And by the time that fighting is done, the Ruin Storm is well and truly years in place. So the Ultramarines, the Blood Angels, and the Dark Angels, the Night Lords, the World Eaters, the Word Bearers, they're all mostly, these legions, trapped on the wrong side of the Ruin Storm. And they're grinding one another down with whatever arms they currently have. When it gets to the traitors, Perturabo, who's on the right side of the Ruin Storm to fight the Imperium, is running out of bolt gun rounds. So you're telling me that these legions, who are all separated by, literally across the galaxy from where the initial suits are being produced on Mars, somehow have completely re-equipped their forces despite being cut off from the Imperium with a new mark of armor. They've set up all this production, they got it into play, and that's why they're all arriving at the Siege of Terra. That's just poor logic. I'm sorry. So, don't hate the armor. Love the miniature, in fact. Absolutely think it's gorgeous. And I didn't shit on it at all yesterday. I could have, like I said, putting out 3D printing lines on the model. I could, point out the blue tack on this guy's head, which, okay. Not the greatest move by Games Workshop, was it? So much so that they just went in with black in paint, a little bit of black pen in paint, and just script that off. Didn't point out because it wasn't the substance of the video. So guys, if there's one thing you take away from today, listen to the points that are being made. Actually tackle the points being made, please. Please. Don't just keep turning around the comment section and going, Mako, just salty. No, I'm making legitimate points and people are not tackling those points. You're just trying to palm them off as not being worthy because they're coming from a place of negativity. That's essentially what it boils down to. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. They're not coming from a place of pure negativity. There is no rage clicks to be gained from supporting Games Workshop. Hating Games Workshop. Trust me. Bigger channels tend to be the ones that love Games Workshop's work or love their lore. I mean, there are channels like Wolflord Bro. Alright? Nearly twice the size of this channel, and all he does is read lines out of the novels. It does not take much to appease people in this hobby. But the minute you say something critical, all of a sudden it's all you ever do, and you're the worst guy for it, and you're salty, yeah. Sick of it, guys. Absolutely sick of hearing it. So, just don't expect me to respond to it going forward. Because clearly you can't look at the history of the videos, and you can't tackle the points being made in them, or you're using some really obtuse logic to support it. Like, you cannot turn around with a White Dwarf article written a few months ago supporting this move because it's been written after they've already decided to put this into production and then use that as justification for it always being that way. It's not. If you're curious, go back, read Book 3 of the Horus Heresy. It talks all about the development of Mark 6 power armor and how it went to the Death Guard and went to the Iron Warriors, some of Horus's most loyal legions, and they hated it. They didn't want to ever have it around them. But apparently they've changed their mindset and they've put it on since. So, what would I know? Anyway, I'm back with the Outer Circle. I am sorry that we had to go down this route. This is not the content I wanted to be putting out. And yet, like I said, the comment section was full of people saying, people who normally don't comment on videos saying, I wanted Mark II or Mark V that would make the most sense for Heresy box set. And instead, it's apparently being treated as, no, you're all just salty. Beakies are the best thing ever. Well, guess what? They're not the best thing ever. But they do look good. Except for this guy. He looks terrible.